Bring, bring, bring. I am barely awake, head still foggy, when I hear somebody screaming outside my house. There's an intruder. Now let me set the scene. It's not some harmless kid or a squirrel. No, it's Margaret Sullivan, the HOA president, pounding on my front door at 6 in the morning, like she's got a SWAT team behind her, and she's already got 911 dialed in, and her complaint. My wife Elena is apparently an illegal trespasser in our own home. Yeah, that actually happened. I remember standing there in my pajamas thinking, lady, you're about to pick a fight with the wrong family. And the funny thing, 20 minutes later, after Margaret tried to have Elena thrown out, she'd be holding an eviction notice with her own name on it. Let me rewind a bit. My name's Michael Torres. I'm 45, and up until this circus rolled into my life, I figured things were pretty normal in Pine Valley Heights. Bought the house for just under $300K. HOA fees that seemed reasonable, nothing fancy. Last week I married Elena Miller, the love of my life, and a pediatric nurse who saved more kids than I can count. Today was supposed to be the start of our new life together. Elena's unpacking boxes from her old Honda, and I'm watching her thinking, man, this is what happiness looks like until Margaret Sullivan shows up with a clipboard, a thick wad of paperwork, and that look people get when they're just dying to ruin your day. First, it's a parking violation, $200. Margaret's eyes sweep over Elena's Toyota like it's got nuclear waste in the trunk. Then it's Elena's medical bag, another $200 apparently, for bringing foreign medical practices into the neighborhood. That word foreign, the way she said it, I swear it cut like a knife. And Margaret just keeps going, slapping us with another fine for not registering Elena with the HOA in 24 hours, $600 due in 2 days or else. And Elena, bless her, just stares at Margaret in disbelief because after pulling a 12-hour shift, saving a 5-year-old's life, she's now getting ticketed for moving into her own house. I wish I could say that was the worst of it, but Margaret wasn't finished. She whips out her phone and calls 911 right there in my driveway because someone suspicious has moved into 47 Pine Valley. She actually tells the dispatcher that Elena brought medical equipment, and well, you'll see what kind of people they are when you get here. The coded language wasn't even subtle. I've never wanted to punch anyone more in my life. 20 minutes later, Officer Martinez shows up. I hand over the marriage certificate and the deed. Elena's name is right there. Margaret faced redder than a fire truck isn't backing down. She doesn't fit our community standards, she hisses. The officer just looks at us, looks at the paperwork, then at Margaret and says, ma'am, this is a civil matter. Mrs. Miller is legally married to the homeowner. Margaret tries one last time HOA regulations, but Martinez is already heading back to his car. That should have been the end of it, but I could see it in Margaret's eyes. This was just the opening round. We did everything by the book, called the police again, same answer, civil matter. Tried 3 different lawyers, but they all wanted $18,000 upfront minimum for a 2-year fight we'd maybe win. Looked into the HOA board. Margaret controlled 5 of 7 seats. Yeah, we were screwed. And then the real fun started. That same day, Elena's hospital started getting anonymous calls. This nurse brings traditional remedies. She might not be safe for American children. Elena's boss calls her in. Do you have problems at home? It wasn't about parking or HOA rules anymore. Margaret was coming after Elena's career. Later that day, my neighbor Bob Hayes, who I thought was just a friendly retiree, corners me by the hedge. Michael, I need to talk to you privately. Turns out Bob was a cop for 35 years, and Margaret had run this same playbook on 4 other families, all of them not exactly Pine Valley standard, if you get my meaning. He tried to stop her before, but couldn't. I failed them, Michael. Maybe together we can finally stop her. But she's more dangerous than you know. That night Bob calls again, midnight almost. Come to my garage tomorrow. I'll show you who Margaret really is. The next morning I walk in and it's like something out of a crime show, wall to wall with photos, documents, recordings. Margaret isn't just an HOA tyrant. Bob says she's stealing money from everyone. Fake landscaping company, fraudulent bills, $240,000 missing over 6 years. Every time a family got close to figuring it out, Margaret terrorized them until they moved. And that morning, right as Bob is laying out his case, we find Elena's car keyed from bumper to bumper with a note. Some people don't belong here. Later that day, the hospital calls Elena again. Cultural incompatibility with American standards. Anonymous hate mail starts showing up in our mailbox. Keep Pine Valley for real Americans. That's Margaret's style. Break you down until you give up. Bob introduces us to Jessica Kelly, an investigative reporter who's been digging into HOA corruption for 2 years. Margaret was fired from the county assessor's office in 2018 for stealing. Jessica says she's been pulling this same scam for decades. That night, as Elena cries at the kitchen table, her career on the line, I look around at my allies. A retired cop, a crusading reporter, my wife, the toughest woman I know. That's when I realize Margaret picked the wrong family. Jessica hatches a plan, simple but brilliant. We make Margaret think she's won. I stage a fake phone call loud enough for her to hear, Elena, maybe we should move, it's not worth it. 2 hours later, Margaret calls her friend. Jessica's recorder catches it all. The foreign couple is giving up just like I planned. Some bloodlines just aren't suited for Pine Valley. When Jessica plays us that recording, I know we've got her. But Bob warns us. She escalates when she thinks she's winning. That's when she makes mistakes. For the next 48 hours, we document everything. Margaret's harassment ramps up, trash on our lawn, broken sprinklers, more hate mail. Elena's nursing license lost in the mail, fake utility emergencies, nonstop calls to the hospital. Elena's at her breaking point. Michael, maybe we should just leave. But I see Margaret for what she is. She's scared. We're not running. Then comes the final nail. Jessica's hidden mic records, Margaret ranting to her best friend. These imported families think they can invade our neighborhood. I've kept Pine Valley pure for 6 years, sent the Martinez, Washington, and Chen families packing. Now these two, some bloodlines just don't have the Pine Valley spirit. Jessica's practically dancing. Michael, this is federal hate crime evidence. We set the ultimate trap. Margaret plans a victory party at the community center, invites her loyalists, unaware Jessica's invited the FBI, the county prosecutor, the press, all her former victims, and half the neighborhood. 2 days later, the center is packed. Margaret struts in, thinking she's Queen Bee. Bob stands up, drops a stack of evidence projected on the big screen, $240K, stolen fake invoices, contracts for kickbacks, bank records. The crowd gasps. Margaret sputters, calls it vicious lies. Jessica stands up, introduces herself, and lays out Margaret's 20-year criminal history and systematic targeting of minority families. The room turns on Margaret. Victims line up to testify: Martinez, Washington, Chen, elderly Mrs. Patterson, all recounting years of abuse, lost homes, ruined lives. Margaret snaps full meltdown racist rant, and all right there on the mic. Bob calls for order. The community votes. Margaret is out, funds must be repaid, restraining orders for victims, and the FBI moves in. Agent Rodriguez stands up. Mrs. Sullivan, you're under arrest for wire fraud, hate crimes, and conspiracy. Margaret tries to run, but Bob blocks her path, calm and steady. Nowhere left to run, ma'am. They cuff her as the whole room erupts, cheering, filming, kids jumping like it's the Super Bowl. And then the cherry on top, Elena's hospital calls, every complaint dismissed. She's promoted to ICU director, public apology incoming. Martinez takes the mic. Margaret, 3 years ago you took our home. Tomorrow we're buying yours at foreclosure price. Margaret collapses. The family she drove out now owns her house. Media swarms, federal agents secure everything. Margaret's husband flips and testifies, and the legal avalanche hits 12 federal charges, state crimes, civil suits from every family, all assets frozen. She goes from self-appointed queen to convicted felon in 24 hours. Every plea fails. She's sentenced to 16 years plus restitution. Her name becomes synonymous with HOA abuse nationwide. Our community turns the corner. Bob's elected HOA president brings transparency and real accountability. Elena gets awards and speaks nationwide. Her health restored our marriage stronger than ever. The Martinez family moves into Margaret's old house, neighbors throw a welcome party, the whole place transformed. Kids of every background play together, a new Iranian family moves in and gets the full welcome, no more fear. The final scene, Margaret broken, packing her trophies in a truck too small for her stuff as neighbors and children, once her victims cheer the new era. Elena hands her the deed signed by Carlos and Maria Martinez. Margaret's face as she realizes who's moving in is pure cinematic justice. So yeah, sometimes fighting back changes everything. Our story went national, new laws got passed. Pine Valley became the gold standard, and no one here is ever afraid again. If you're watching this, tell me, would you stand up or run? Because sometimes the only way to fix a broken system is to face it head on together. Comment below, share your thoughts about justice, right and wrong, and what it takes to build a real community. And stick around because next time I'll tell you another wild, true story of standing up when it matters most.